Good morning. Welcome to Money Talk, guys. Welcome to Money Talk. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Happy Friday, guys. Hey, we're here to have a great time. Welcome to, remember, TGIF, right? It's TGIF. And this is where you got to remember that you think, grow, intelligently fast. All right? So, let me see. Can you guys hear me? Hit me with a yes or a no. Can you hear me? All right. Awesome. Let's bring it down. All right, guys. So welcome to Money Talk this morning, guys. As I promised, today I'll be breaking down our, the financial foundation, and more importantly, we're also going to break down the wealth formula today. That way, we can continue to be great, right? You see, that's why we also got to continue to learn how to be complete winners and how to keep being awesome and don't stop winning, right? So today, we're going to have this quick talk, right? And we're going to break it all down. And then, as you know, we'll always, get some of your feedbacks, right? Because your feedback is important. And what were some of your takeaway from breaking down this, I like to call truth, so that way you get better understanding. So one of the things we got to talk about is, what are the 4 things that is important to us, right? What are some of the 4 things that are important to us in order for us to win the money game? And what is important to us is that we as hard-working citizens, we must learn how to make money, right? So we did that. We learned how to get a job. We learned how to start a business. We learned all these ways to make money. So then we had to learn how to save our money. Right? 85% of the population save where they get taxed now. 10% of the population save for the retirement where they get taxed later. And 5% of the population learn how to save where they get tax advantages. Right? So we learned that one. We learned how to save. Right? Even though most of us don't put our money where 5% put it, but we learned how to save our money. Now, the third thing is where we get a little shaky, right? Because now we didn't learn how to grow the money. We didn't learn how to properly grow the money and where to grow the money, because when you ask that question, where to grow the money, you got to understand a little bit more about investment. And then the fourth thing, protection. Many of us didn't learn how to protect our money. If I was to ask how many of you guys right now have a trust on this call, I'm pretty sure the numbers will be quite low, if any, right? See, these are things that we have to learn. And we got to learn, and the way that we learn is by having a goal and a plan, right? People don't plan to fail, guys. It's just that they fail to plan. And the reason why they fail to plan is because they never had a goal, especially when it comes to their retirement. So if you never had a retirement goal, you never had a retirement purpose, then what are you working for? You ever ask yourself that question? Why am I working? Why am I saving? What is the purpose of doing this? For what? What is the outcome? What am I aiming for? How much do I need? What do I need? Right? All of these questions is questions that you should have asked yourself, or you probably ask yourself these questions on a day-to-day basis. Do I have enough for retirement? How much do I need for retirement? How am I know if I'm on track? So these are questions that we have to ask ourselves and put ourselves in a position to where we could really be ahead of the money game, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about why it's important to create a financial foundation, right? And when you think about creating a financial foundation, guys, I want you to think about when you're building a house. When you build a house, imagine that you're building a house. You and your family get together. You say, man, we're going to build a house. And you be the leader of the group. You say, hey, we're going to start with a roof first. We're going to build a roof. Right? You know, everybody going to look at it like, a roof? Are we going to build a roof first? Well, we're going to put the roof on. No, we're going to build a roof first. The roof. So first thing we're going to build is a roof. Right? So you build a roof, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to stay right down the ground. Right? Because there's nothing to hold up the roof. So then someone stopped you and your family and said, no, we cannot build with the roof first. We got to start with a solid financial foundation. Right, Cherie? We got to start with a solid financial foundation. So Swan draws up the plan and she said, hey, we're going to create a plan. And the plan is that we're going to create this foundation first. And when Victoria looked over the plan, she said, hey, we got to make sure that the plan starts with proper protection. So then Ron looked over the plan and he said, yes, but what is it that we're going to protect first? There's three things we got to put in perspective, right, Tyrone, before we can look at the plan. So there's three things we got to plan for that we cannot predict when it can happen to us. So Ms. Sheila said, hey, here's the three things that we got to plan for. We got to plan for if we get disabled. We're going to plan for if we have health problems. And then Tamika said, hey, don't forget if we prematurely die. And he said, yes, great. These are the three things we got to plan for and have proper protection in place when we're creating a financial foundation. So now we looked at it and we said, okay, great. These are the three things. But now, what are the things that we need to protect our friends and our family and everybody with this? So, Motiqua said, hey, what about prematurely die? What are the four things that we need? And I said, well, the four things that you need, Miss Victoria, if you prematurely die, you got to make sure that you have life insurance. You got to make sure that you have a final expense insurance. You got to make sure that you have a will and a trust. Tiffany, these are the four things that you will need to put in place if you want to have proper protection if you prematurely die. And then Cherie said, wow, what is it that we need in regards to health problems, then, Keyon? Well, in having proper protection for health problems, you just got to know the difference between HMO and PPO. Ron, when you turn 65, you also got to make sure that you have what's something called Medicare, right? You got to make sure that you're enrolled into Medicare. Because, Tamika, if you don't do this at 65, you may embark on what we call some penalties, right? So, Ms. Victoria, when you look at it and it's all said and done, we just got to understand that when you turn 65, you got 3 months before 65 birthday or 3 months after 65 birthday. And if you're still working past 65, Swan, all you have to do is just simply know that you have at least 7 months after your job group insurance is no longer covering you. Okay? And that's why you got to learn that the first thing you got to do, Cherie, is that you got to enroll in Part A and B, right? So these are the things that we have to do, guys, put proper protection in place for, the health problems that will come. And if they come, we got to make sure that we have the right kind of insurance. And you can make that determination if you think, HMO or PPO is good for you. And all HMO means is that, the doctors that's in one network, those are the only doctors you could go to. And Tamika, when you think about PPO, all you guys know is that fact that you have the ability to choose whatever doctors you want to go to, okay? So now Ms. Victoria said, no, Keyon, you forgot one. What about disability? What are the things that you must have in place for disability? So I reviewed it. I said, well, we got to have something called long-term care. We got to have something called long-term care. Why long-term care is important? It's because of the fact that we got to plan for the unexpected, meaning that if we can't perform 2 daily acts of living, then it requires us to have what's called long-term care. So, Aruchi, when you think about what it is long-term care is for, it's for if you cannot, feed yourself, bathe yourself, continuance or transfer yourself, all these things may require some assistance. So long-term care is a great thing that plays a very important role as far as to pay for someone to come in, or if you want to go to a living facility that actually provide living assistance, right? So these are 3 things that we got to plan for when you talk about creating a financial foundation and put together proper protection. But on a side note, Ms. Victoria, what about protection on your home? What about if you're renting? Do you have renter's insurance? What about your car insurance? If you have a business, do you have the proper liability insurance in place? How about your pet, right? Do you have pet insurance? So all these things require you to put together proper protection first, because you got to plan for the unexpected. They have a saying that it's either you live too long or you die too soon. The question is, are you prepared for either one? And that's why proper protection is the first thing you got to make sure that you have in order to do that for you and your family and have a solid financial foundation. So the next thing you got to do when you're creating the financial foundation, right? So now we're back to the drawing board, and Swan says, hey, Keyon, the next thing we got to do, we're going to put up some beams, right? We got to put up some beams on this financial foundation now. So the beams is that we got to first look at, the first beam we got to look at is called debt management, right? Debt management. So, Ruchi, when you think about debt management, right, we got to get out of debt. We got to get out of debt and get rid of all the debt as soon as possible, because interest on debt could, hurt us. So, Tamika, the thing that we teach families, that we don't teach families that we got to, consolidate our debt, or should we bankrupt our debt, because that will hurt your credit. And Ron, we don't want to hurt your credit, because we know that credit is important to leverage to acquire assets, right? So when you look at it, Montiko, what we do is that we teach families how to pay down their debt, so that way that could increase their credit, right? So we teach them how to pay down their debt and increase their credit. And by doing this one, it helps a lot of families to be in a better position to have a better solid financial foundation. You see, the next thing that we do, the next beam, right? So, Cherie, we got the next beam that we got to put up now for our financial foundation, for our house, right? So the beam. The next beam we got to look at what's known as the emergency fund beam, right? And putting up this beam is pretty much now where we are in a position to learn how to budget ourselves. So when you think about the emergency fund, Ms. Beverly, you got to have 3 to 6 months of your income to set to the side for emergency fund. And the only way you can get this done is by simply understanding why it's important to live on a budget. And we teach family a simple budgeting formula called the 50-20-30 formula. Ms. Victoria, when we learn to live on this budget, we are in control of our money, because, it makes us more, it's more predictable where your money is. So, Swan, you got to look at it and say, well, Keyon, we got all the beams up now, right? And Ron come back over and say, hey, time to put up the roof. And I said, absolutely, time to put that roof on. So now, the roof in your financial foundation is called investment, right? And while you're putting up this roof in your financial foundation, this roof requires you to learn how to save and invest for the long run. But in order for this roof to work in your favor, Cherie, you got to understand the 3 ways that your investments could be potentially taxed when you need the money in your retirement years, right? So that's why when you think about all of these tasks, we have to take care of them as soon as possible, right? So now, when you look at your financial foundation, you realize that number one, put together proper protection. Number two, manage your debt. Number three, emergency fund. Number four, investment, right? So this is the goal, Swan, right? The financial foundation is the goal. You want to get to that goal to have a strong financial foundation. But it requires a plan, Tiffany. To acquire this goal, it requires a plan. And the plan is where you take the time to understand and learn and understand how money works. Now, do you understand how money works, Orichi? Right? Because if you understand how money works, it requires you to learn the wealth formula, right? So, Ms. Beverly, when we talk about the wealth formula, what we're saying is that you got to understand it's like a math equation where it says money plus time plus or minus rate of return minus inflation minus tax, that equals wealth. So if you're looking at me sideways a little bit right now, Ron, like, what does that mean, Keyon? What does it mean, money plus time, plus or minus rate of return, minus inflation, minus tax? How is that the plan? How is that the plan to help me build my financial foundation? It's because when you think about it, you break it all down. What does each of the plan is trying to tell you? It's an action plan. So when you think about the money in the wealth formula, you know, Montego, all it's saying is that you got to learn a concept called pay yourself first. You got to pay yourself first. That's how you find the money. Now, how much are you paying yourself first? You got to set aside 5 to 10%, 15% or more, right? You got to treat you like a bill. And you start paying yourself first because that's the money that we're going to use to apply to the wealth formula. So now, if you learn to buy only what you need, make small changes like paying yourself first and buying only what you need, that will bring you big money. So if you just save $10 a day, simple idea of saving $10 a day, and you did that for the next 30 years, the average return of an 8% interest on that money over a 30-year period would then equate to where you will have $447,000+. What if you were saving $20 a day? $20 a day, where you're saving $600 a month. You did that for 30 years, got an average return of 8%. You know, Tamika, you would have $894,000+. So when you think about the idea of finding the money, that's why we tell you that time plus time. Why is it plus time? It's because we know that time is money. But what you got to understand also about time is that procrastination is the enemy of saving, you know, Miss Victoria. The longer you take to start saving, it will be devastating on your ability, because you got to remember, time is one of the most valuable asset that we can't buy more of, Sheila. So we got to take advantage of the time we have today and put a lot of money away, so that way it can make money for us over a period of time. But now it also says in a wealth formula, plus or minus rate of return, right, Tyrone? Plus or minus rate of return. But why is that? Why is it plus or minus rate of return? It's because the magic of compound interest. Did you know that the rule of 72 is one of the most important discoveries that was made in finance? Now, what is the rule of 72? Now, it was created by Albert Einstein. And Miss Beverly, you know what Albert Einstein said? He said if you take 72 divided by whatever interest you're getting on your money, that equal the amount of years it would take for your money to double for you or against you. So let's talk about it at the bank. Let's give you two examples. Let's say that the bank gave you 1% interest on your money, Miss Victoria. You're going to take 72. You divide it by 1. That's going to equal 72. So that means it would take you 72 years for $1,000 to become $2,000. Now, Swan, do you want to wait 72 years? Right? I always say that we're trying to live to see 72 years, right? And that's if the bank gave you 1%. Now think about the idea that, what if the credit card is charging you 12% interest on your money, Ron? What does that mean for your money? Every time you're going to take 72 divided by 12, that means the money will double every 6 years against you. So whatever the balance is, let's say that you had a $10,000 balance on your credit card. 6 years happen. That now double against you to $20,000. Or what if your bank is getting compound interest against you every month? Think about that. Do you see how you could end up in a debt trap? You see, guys, that's why they say there's two types of people in the world. There's people that understand how money works, and they make money work for them. But you know, Miss Beverly, there's also people that don't understand how money works, and they end up just working for money. That's why it says plus or minus rate of return. It's because interest could work for you, and it could work against you. That's why we always tell people that it does not matter what you earn, and it doesn't matter what you keep. But it all comes down to what is the interest upon what you keep. That's how you truly build wealth, to me. So when you look at it all, we got to look at it and say, well, it says minus inflation. Why does it say minus inflation? It's because inflation is a silent killer, Cherie. Tiffany, did you know that inflation is the rise of price of goods and services over time? You know, Swan, they also said that inflation happened because our country keeps printing more money than it actually earns. So Tyrone, what does that mean? It means that the more they print more money than it actually earns, everybody will lose some value of their money. And some people refer to inflation as a hidden tax system in our monetary system. Did you know in the last 100 years, from 1914 to 2014, the U.S. inflation rate averaged 3.32%? So that means that if you plan to retire with $4,000 as an income in today's value, now, Ms. Sheila, did you know that if the inflation rate go up over the next 20 years just by 3%, not 3.2, but just 3%, that means the $4,000 that you planned for 20 years prior, you would now need $7,224 per month to have the same buying power that you planned for 20 years prior with $4,000. Now, how many families do you think is planning their retirement with the idea that inflation may go up over the years to come? How many families do you think is thinking about the COL, the cost of living, Ron? You see, this is the reason why many of us really need to start learning how to use the wealth formula as a guide. But it also says minus taxes. Why? It's because no matter what, you got to pay taxes. But remember what I said? If you understand, I want you to write this down. Write this down. I want you to remember this very saying that Keyon said to you today. If you understand taxes, you will know where to put your own money, Cherie. If you understand taxes, you will know where to put your own money, Tiffany. Yes, guys. All you got to do is understand the 3 ways that your money will be taxed when you need it. So now, I don't want you guys to get the idea that I'm telling you not to pay any taxes now, all right? I want you guys to pay your taxes because I don't want them to Wesley snipe you, and I don't want them to have you lean back like Fat Joe in a jail suit, all right? We don't need you to be in jail. Don't play with the IRS. They will lock you up, all right? Pay your taxes. But what I want you to really pay attention to is the fact that there's 3 ways your money gets taxed. It's either your money getting taxed now, where 85% of the population save for their retirement in, which is in their checking account, savings account, CD, stocks, and mutual funds. And then you have only where 10% of the population saved in their money, where it's taxed later. Taxed later is in their 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, SEP IRAs, annuities, and pensions. And then you have only 5% of the population that use tax advantage. And Ms. Sheila, tax advantage means that the money, let me not rush it. I'm going to share with you what it means. But let's talk about the vehicles that they use. You know, Ruchi, the vehicles that they use is called Roth IRA, 529 college savings plan, municipal bond, health savings account, life insurance, and long-term care benefits. These are the vehicles that are in the 5% bracket that people use. Now, what does it mean to be taxed now? Now, tax now means that any earnings from these accounts must pay tax for the year. It also means that any earnings within your savings account or your certificates of deposit, which is known as a CD, any dividends that is taken out from a stock, a mutual fund, a money market fund, must report and pay tax on that. Did you know that, Ms. Victoria? Right? That's what 85% of the population save for their retirement. But then you have 10% of the population that use tax later, when it comes to saving for their retirement. Now, tax later is just a fancy word to say that your money is pre-tax. Now, pre-tax money means that the money you put in an account is money that you haven't paid any taxes on yet, but you definitely will pay taxes on it later on when you withdraw it. You know, that's why these accounts are known to be tax deferred. Things like your 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, SEP, IRAs, annuities, and pensions. So what are some of the rules that apply to these vehicles? It means that if you're 59 and a half, you will be taxed as ordinary income on every withdrawal. You know, Ron, they also said that if you start to take the money out before 59 and a half, you will be subject to pay a 10% penalty in addition to paying taxes. Now, also, Ms. Cherie, did you know that if you cannot keep your money there forever, and you got to start taking it out by your 70 and a half birthday, or you would lose 50% of your money due to the fact that you failed to take out the required minimum distribution. But now, Ms. Beverly, I have some good news. Due to the Secure Act that was passed January of this year, they moved the RMD age from 70 and a half to 72. But the bad news is this, Tamika, is that you got to find out, are you grandfathered in underneath the 70 and a half, or did your company move it up to 72? That's why it's important for you guys to really go out there and find out these questions and ask these questions, right? So, Swan, where do 5% of the population put their money, and why? 5% of the population use tax advantage, and the reason why they use tax advantage is because you generally won't be taxed when you need to withdraw the money from your account. Now, tax advantage money is actually after tax money because you already paid taxes on that money. You know what that means. That means that if you put in $100 today and taxes are 25%, they take their $25 today. And if your $75 goes to $1,000 later, when you need to take out this money, you'll be tax exempt. So vehicles like Roth IRAs, 529 college savings plan, and life insurance are popular investment vehicles that get tax exempt distribution. Did you guys know that? So when you think about it, that's why it says minus tax. It's just a matter of when you want to pay your taxes. Do you want to pay your taxes on the earnings and on every withdrawals, right, where you get taxed now? Or do you want to pay taxes later on, which means that you're going to pay taxes on every withdrawals moving on, and you be taxed as ordinary income on every withdrawal? Or do you want to pay your taxes now and enjoy your money later on tax exempt? It's all about how you want to be taxed, right? Yeah, you got to know the fact. It's almost like me asking you, do you want to pay taxes on the seed or do you want to pay taxes on the harvest, right? So you got to think about, can you predict what taxes will be in the future? And if you can't, then you got to really look into different places. So when you look at all of these things, remember I talked about, it's all about having a plan with a goal. You got to know your goal. Your goal is the financial foundation. And the plan is using the wealth formula. That's how you can use the wealth formula to build your financial foundation, and you can learn how to build wealth. So when it's all said and done, always saying about the wealth formula is this: it helps you to know the things about it. It's just this: money. When the wealth formula says money, all we're trying to encourage families to do is to spend less, save more. When it comes down to time, all the wealth formula is saying is that you got to invest your money long enough to allow the interest to compound and for the wealth to potentially build up, Tiffany. When it comes down to rate of return, plus or minus rate of return. Now, Ron, the rate of return is very important. It is very important for you to know what is the interest on your money and what is the interest against your money. And when it comes to minus inflation, Tamika, you got to realize that your money must be earning an interest that is higher than what the inflation rate is. And Ruchi, when you think about minus taxes, you must look for investment vehicles that is in a tax advantage department. Okay? That's how you can really use the wealth formula to really build wealth and help you to create a stronger financial foundation. So I hope that helped you guys to understand a lot more, and I hope you learned a lot today, right? Remember, this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, guys, you will get an opportunity to learn more about our National Financial Literacy Campaign. and you will get to hear some amazing things. You know, one thing I want to share with you guys really quick. I want to show you guys where we are within our campaign, right? And how many families we've educated so far. So as you can see, we have a 30 by 30 financial literacy campaign. And our goal and our mission is to educate 30 million families. So look at that, guys. We already have educated 1,031,131 families. So I love to ask everybody on this call today, do you feel that you were educated today? Just by hitting a yes button. Do you feel that you were educated? Do you feel that you understand a little bit more, right? Does it make sense? Is it all coming together? Because at this moment, guys, I will open up the call, all right? If you would like to share, so I'm going to clear the board, right? I'm going to clear the board. If you would like to share, what are some of your takeaways from today? You know, what do you think, Ron? You know, what were some of your big takeaways today, guys? If you'd like to share, just hit that yes button, and I want to hear from you guys, right? Now, what was your big takeaways? If you'd like to share, just hit that yes button. I will call on you, so that way you can share. And I'm going to call you guys in this order. So we have Miss Swan that will share first, and we have Miss Victoria Gordon. And for those that want to share next, just hit the yes button. Keep your yes there, so that way I could call on you next.
Good morning, Keyon. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Good morning.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's Finance Friday, and we just got a great lesson on finances. Keyon, the way you presented this this morning, oh my word. I like how you called our names. It just engaged us more. I mean, I was just writing, my hands about to fall off. I looked up, I did see that you're recording it, so I would like to hear this again. But I mean, just the way you presented it, I mean, I want to be able to duplicate this so that, I mean, I just felt, oh my gosh, it's just, I learned so much. I mean, the way you break it down, the way you presented it this morning was just fire. And I'm just so excited. And I just want to be able to duplicate it so that I can share with others because it was so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing and the way you shared today. Everyone have a great Friday. Thanks for letting me share.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for sharing, Swan. And yeah, be available on shortly, probably after this. Ms. Victoria, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Great call. I just have a question. You were talking about your money earning interest that is higher than inflation. Since I'm still working at retirement time and getting extra money from Social Security, what would you suggest, or maybe just a hypothetical question, to put in, where would you put your extra money, like your Social Security money, especially if you're still working and you don't want to really touch that?
Well, remember what I said about taxes? It's all about how you want to be taxed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you want to be taxed when you need that money? And then again, in how many years or months from now would you need that money, right? Those are the things that will help us to understand. But I'll tell you, with that answer, I would definitely love to do that more as a private, because for you, that's more specifically tied to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I was to give a general answer, then I'd be thinking of different places, like if you are younger, or, you know, I know you're getting ready for retirement right now, right? And yeah, for you, it'd be a little bit different for me to tell you where to put that money due to the nature of when do you need it. All that plays a factor, because we got to know, when do you need it back to you? You know, is it something that you're going to need? And we got to make sure that, but if you have an idea already of how you want to be taxed when you need it, that will help us as well to give you a better, more sound recommendation, right? And then we'd have to look at the pros and cons of everything as well. It will be a good recommendation for you.
Okay, I have to say that these calls are making it a lot easier and opening up my understanding, and even from just becoming a licensed campaigner and studying and reading, it gives me a better idea where to put my money, especially to be prepared when I'm going to need it. So, because I don't plan on working after a year. I mean, I can retire now, but I'm not ready because I love what I do. I have a passion for it. But at the same time, I want to create my own platform in that same area of education. So thank you so much for explaining and breaking down the wealth formula.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm so happy that you're able to get that. And like I said, yeah, that's something that we'll definitely have to go over all your tolerance. I like to call it your tax tolerance, your investment tolerance, and find out all these tolerance and how do you best fit in that, and then we could really look at the pros and cons of things within that bracket for you to make a better decision.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else would love to share? Hit that yes button or raise your hand. Right? I'd love to hear from you guys. What are some of your takeaway from today? Hope you guys have learned a lot. Anybody else would like to share? You can hit that yes button in your participant section. So if you go into your participant section, you hit that yes button. I'll call on you so that way you can unmute and share. What are some of your takeaways and what is it that you learned today? Right? I would tell you, it's important for us to continue to learn how to win the money game, so that way we could be in a better position, right? We have Tiffany Harewood. Good morning, you're live.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Keyon, great call today. I'm with Swan. I love the way that you shared it today, keeping everybody engaged and participating in the call today in an indirect way. What came to my mind was just knowing that, when we're looking to build our financial future, our generational wealth, or whatever it is that we're looking to do to meet our financial goals, that we're not in it by ourselves, right? We got to do it together. It's almost like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. What I got out of today's call was, I don't have to do this by myself. Right? There are people out here, family, friends, this call that's here to help me make the decisions, get the information and the understanding that I need to get my finances where I want them to be and beyond, to get my finances to a place where my children don't have to worry about money, right? They just have to be concerned with keeping up with the strategy to continue to build that generational wealth. So I really appreciate today's call and the way that you shared it. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, you're very welcome. And, it's very, very powerful that we learn the goal and know to have a plan, right? That's what's important, guys. You got to have a goal with a plan. Ms. Sheila, you're live. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Just being a campaigner and being on these Money Talk calls, it just helps my confidence in when I'm going to educate families. It helps my confidence because I know what I'm talking about. These money talks help breaks it down even more to where if I wasn't sure about something, just coming on these money talk calls, it just helps my confidence and my understanding of how to break these concepts down even more. And that's what I love about the money talks. And I love the way, like the other one said, how you did it, how you was calling our names and how you kept us engaged in the conversation. It was amazing. Another amazing money talk call. I am so thankful to Swan for inviting me to these money talk calls and how it has just helped my business and just to understand not just my business, but me personally, and being able to have these financial talks with my family. I haven't got to the point where I'm getting on my kids' nerves yet, because most of the conversations that we have, I will start talking about these concepts and things. So I haven't gotten on their nerves yet, but I'm just so thankful to be able to have these conversations with my kids now, you know, with my family now, because these were conversations that, you know, we didn't know, we didn't have. It wasn't explained. We just didn't know. So I'm so thankful for Money Talks and for this opportunity to be able to, in the mornings, to be able to get this call in and to get my day going. So thank you for these Money Talk calls.
You're welcome. And you know, guys, now when you have conversation with your kids, right, it's easier now when you break it down to them and you say, hey, guys, before you go out in the real world, here's the game plan. You got to create that financial foundation. This is the goal. And here's how you're going to accomplish the goal now. Now you can break it down to your kids much easier, right? You can say, here's the goal, here's the plan. If you follow the goal, if you go after the goal with the plan, and the plan is the wealth formula, now you can set up your children to succeed at all costs now. Because now it's easier and you break it down in a simple way that you can write it on a piece of paper and say, come here, son, I got to teach you something. Come here, baby, let me teach you something. And start while they're young. Pull your grandkids to the side and say, hey, baby, come here, let me talk to you something a second. They're young, they may not get it. Say, every time they come over, you just say, come here, let me teach you something. You see, when you grow up one day, you got to have a goal. And you write it on there, a goal. They say, a goal? Yeah, what is that, Grandma? Or what is that, Grandpa? You know, a goal is when you aim for something in life. And you want to make sure that you start with creating a financial foundation. And a financial foundation requires you to have proper protection. And then you got to learn how to manage your debt. And then you got to learn how to create an emergency fund. And then you got to learn where to invest. This is the goal. And then the way you accomplish the goal, you got to put plus, you know, you got to have a plan. And the way you make a plan is that you got to understand how money plus time plus or minus rate of return minus inflation minus tax and how that will equal wealth. And when you show them the goal with the plan, they say, well, what does it all equal? Because if it's financial foundation plus wealth formula, what does it equal? Well, it equals freedom. It equals freedom. And I want you to be free much faster than I could have ever done it. So be grandma, be grandpa, beat dad, beat auntie, beat uncle, beat mommy. And that's how you really now could change, understand. So start there. And then as they get older, you break it down for them, right? So guys, you know, these are things I'm doing with my kids. That's why I wanted to do it this way this morning, because I'm really diving in my children's early development in their mind. And I'm having these go talks with them at a easy rate where they can understand. And I just want them to understand the concepts. If they understand the concept, they will know how to seek the product to help them to build that concept. Because as long as they know the financial foundation plus the wealth formula equals freedom, they'll be able to get it. Does that help you guys? Is that good? All right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Absolutely. And this is how we have money talks, right?
Yes, great.
All right. So now you pull up your kids and, you know, Ms. Sheila, now you can have a conversation with your kids and it won't be this long, drawn-out conversation. Just start with small bites, right? And then they'll come back and say, well, what do I use to do the proper protection, right? And then they'll ask the question. Sometimes you just got to plant the seed. They'll come and ask, right? And that's all we want to do for families as well. We just want to plant enough seeds to where if they're willing to ask, we're willing to teach. And guess what? It's free, right? So with that said, guys, I thank you all for always tuning into Money Talk. And let's have a wonderful weekend. Remember, tomorrow will be another great call, all right, on this very same number at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So you guys can come on and hear from some great speakers, all right? So always remember that you are one decision away from changing your future for the better. So always remember that the choice is always yours, all right? So on the count of three, let's all wish out and let's have a happy Friday and have an amazing weekend, all right? So on the count of three, let's all unmute and let's all wish out together, all right? So, 1, 2, 3. Let's wish out, guys.
Whoosh.
World
Team, one team,
One team.
one dream,
One
one
dream,
system,
one
one
system, one
cause.
cause, one cause.
Have a great
Great
day.
day,
Hey,
everyone.
everybody.
Everybody.
Have a great weekend. Have a great day. Bye, Keyon.
Bye, Swan.